Hello everyone. So I just want to do a short video today, basically going through doing a couple review exercises. Nothing too much at this point really for me to show you guys. We've covered all the content and I've posted now the review questions and the topics for the exam. So basically I hope that you guys are going through doing the review questions, looking at the different topics in the study sheet and making sure that you understand, each of them. But I figure, hey, I might as well go through, I can do a couple questions today and then I can do a couple more on Thursday to help you prepare. So to start with, let's see here. I've got the questions pulled up. And I think I'm going to do the Family Feud CNA edition question. So this one here says, create an array with the results from a survey of favorite comfort foods. And then it says, create a second array which contains the number of survey responses for each food item. Prompt the user for a favorite food. If the food is contained in the array, print out how many people voted for that food. If the food is not contained, print out a message, sorry, that food wasn't listed. So this problem, I didn't give you guys a starter project. I expect you guys just to create a simple HTML file and then insert the JavaScript or link it externally that will go through and do this. So it's a pretty simple exercise. So let's go through and do that. So I actually did go ahead and create a starter project here that we can use, or I can use. And if I launch it, let's see what it looks like. Okay, so basically I just used a form. Now you could do it anyway. You could even use prompts and alerts. Or you could use just basically some HTML and you could go in and modify some text element HTML. But using a form is kind of an easy way to do it. So I can go in here and I can enter in ice cream. And then I can go and click check survey. And at that point, that's where my JavaScript needs to run. It needs to check and see if one of those items if the item I entered is contained in the survey results array. So that's what we're going to code up. So let's go ahead and get started on this. So right now I have a file here. I copied this from one of the other exercises. So I'm going to change this to feud.js. And I'm going to go ahead and create this new file. So I'm going to save this as feud.cs. So I'll just have to go find the folder here. Okay, so that's feud.js. And I'm going to save this as a web file. Okay. All right, so pretty much everything should work. Let's just do a console log just to make sure it's properly linking in the JavaScript. So if I hit F12, okay, it did not find the file here. Probably because I need to put it in a window on load, so let's try that. Okay, let's see here. Okay, there we go. So I've now got feud.js. I can see that my JavaScript is properly linked. So the next thing I need to do is go in and I'm going to declare an array that is going to contain all of my survey basically entries. So I'm going to say var result foods equals, and basically I'm going to just have an array of string here. So I'm going to say ice cream. I'm going to say chips. I'm going to say soda. Just got to come up with a few more. Let's say cheeseburgers. All right, how about one more? Let's say, I'm having trouble here. I'm having trouble coming up with one. Comfort food, something you just enjoy eating, makes you feel good. Maybe isn't the best for your tummy. Okay, let's say cake. Okay. All right, so I have those in an array. Now the next thing I want to do is I need to put in how many people responded to each. So for example, for ice cream, how many people in the survey said that that was their favorite food? So I'm going to say var result votes equals, and for ice cream, I'm going to say 40 people said ice cream. For chips, I'm going to say 30 people. For soda, I'll say 12. And let's say cheeseburger was 4 and cake was 21. Okay? So now basically I have two arrays, and at each index, I have the name of the food in one array and how many people voted for it in the other. So at this point, I now need to hook up a function that's going to check what if the food that entered is one that was entered in the survey. So I'm going to create another variable now. This is going to be for a function expression. So var check result equals function, right? And now I'm going to have to get the text from the text box. So I'm going to have to look at my oops, just close that accidentally. I'm going to have to look at my HTML. Let's open that back up. So I notice here that inside my form, I have a text element that has an ID of food. So I'm going to grab an element by ID. So I need to also add my $sign function. Okay, and so I'm going to say var text box equals $sign food. And I'm going to say var entered food equals text box.value. Okay, and let's just console.log this for now. Right, and I now need to hook up the event handler. So I need to look here, and I see that I have a button which has an ID of check. So I'm going to get that element by ID, and I'm going to set the event handler for the onClick equal to my check result function expression. So I'm going to go $sign check dot onClick equals check result. Okay, let's try this out. So I'm just going to enter in donut, and if I hit check survey, okay, so it's getting the text correctly. So at this point, I can now loop through my first array, and I can do a string comparison to see is donut equal to the first element in that array, and then I keep looping. Is it equal to the second, the third, the fourth, until I hit the end of the array? And if at any point it is equal, then I can modify my survey says text box to let the user know if that entry was found and how many people voted for it. Okay, so let's try this out. So I've got my entered food, so I'm going to do a for loop now. So for let I less than result foods dot length. All right, so if entered food equals result foods I, then at this point I'm going to set that second text box equal to a string. So I need to create this string. So I'm going to say var result string equals, and the string is going to basically say how many people voted for that food. So I will say result votes I, got to string. I'm just going to convert, because it's a number, I'm going to convert it to a string. I could just have these as strings as well if I wanted. So number of votes to string plus voted for it. Okay, and now I'm going to grab that element, that text box, and I'm going to set this string equal to the value so it'll be displayed. So let's look at my HTML. And I can see here that I have a label, or sorry, an input that has an ID of result. So I'm going to say $result.value equals result string. And that should do it. And at this point I can put in the break because I've already found the food I'm looking for. So I want to exit out of the loop. So let's test this out and see if this works. So I'll enter in ice cream. Now, one disadvantage of the way I'm doing this is I have to enter in the exact spelling of the item for it to work. So I can come in here and I can enter in ice cream, and 40 people voted for it, okay? I can enter in cheeseburger, 4 people voted for it. Now, the only issue still remaining is if I enter in donut, donut isn't one of the survey results, and nothing will happen. So we need to add in some functionality now so that donut will also trigger a response that'll say, sorry, no one voted for it. Or something similar to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a new variable. So I'm going to say var found equals false, okay? And if I do find a result, I'm going to say found equals true. So at the end of my loop, I can now go and check the found variable. So if found, well, I don't really need to worry about that because that's already been taken care of. So I'm going to say if not found, then I'm going to want to go $result.value equals no result in survey. So you just need a simple message that says it wasn't found. So let's try this out now. So if I go donut, check survey, no result in survey. There we go, okay? Right, let's just try this one more time. If I go soda, okay, 12 people voted for it, all right? Now, one small issue I have here is if I do go soda, okay, no result in survey. Now that's a fairly easy situation to fix. What I can do is I can say, if I convert both of these to lowercase, then I know that at least the difference in case won't be a problem. So if I go enter food to lowercase equals result foods I dot to lowercase. Okay. Now if I go and try this, if I put in soda, it'll work. And if I put in under soda with a lowercase, it'll also work as well, okay? All right, so that's gonna wrap up that question. Pretty simple question, and you could do this. This question is very open-ended. So you can use a form. You could also use alerts and prompts to get the input from the user, and then use an alert to output what the correct answer was. All right, so we've done a couple questions now, and the upcoming video I do on Thursday, I'll do maybe a couple more or one more. But another way that you guys can go and now practice and get ready for the test is to go back and do lab exercises. So we've now done, I think, 8 labs, and each lab had roughly 3 or 4 exercises, and these are all the same type of exercises that could be on the final exam. So one strategy you could use for studying would be to go back and just pick a random lab and pick a random exercise from that lab, and then just see if you can do it. And if you do that, say once a day, or for the rest of the week, then you'll have practiced doing several exercises and it should be a big help. So one thing I'm going to show you today is we're actually going to create a very, very simple JavaScript program that will do this for us. It'll kind of automate this process. And I can go post this on D2L and you guys can use this. So this is called, I'm going to call this the daily practice. And I'm going to open up in brackets my starter project here. So let's see what I have here. If I open this up and run it. Okay, so basically what this does is I can load this up and I hit the generate question button and it's going to pull an exercise from one of the labs and it's going to tell me, it's going to display that. And then I can go and actually try practicing that question and see if I'm able to do it. So let's try this out. So basically we just need to add the JavaScript that's going to randomize this. So once again, this is a very simple exercise. So right now I have to add my JavaScript. So let's go create a new file. And I'm going to save this as, okay, so I'll go back to my desktop and daily practice, and I'm going to save this as practice.js. All right, I'll save that. And in my index, I'm going to change this. Instead of saying slideshow, it's going to be practice.js. Okay. And we can come in here and we can just add in our basic functionality. So we're probably going to need the $sign function. So I will say var $sign equals function return document. Oops. Okay. And I'm also going to put in the window on load. So window dot. Right, so there's our window on load function. And let's just do a console.log. Hello. And we'll try this out. Okay, so it's something I didn't do. I did something wrong here. Did I not save this? That could be it. That could be it. Okay, there we go. So I've got my hello. So everything's ready. Now, I've done a bit of work. I went through and I looked at all of the questions that we had in the lab. So I'm going to create a big array here. So var questions. And I mean, I wrote these all down. So you're gonna have to bear with me. I gotta go through now, and I'm gonna enter all of these as strings into this array. In fact, I think I'm gonna pause the video because I don't know how I'm gonna keep you guys entertained as I'm doing this, right? So let me, I'll just pause it and I'll pick up where I left off as soon as I've entered all these into. Okay, so what we can see here is I've entered into an array strings that represent every exercise that were contained in the lab. So you can see, for example, for lab 1, we have book exercise 2.1, book exercise 2.2, book 2.3, extra 2.1, and short 2.1. So I have these all entered into an array, and I spread this over several lines, which is a good technique when you have many things and you want to kind of be able to easily read them. So I basically put each line contains one of the labs. So that makes it a lot easier for me to look at the code and be able to quickly read and see what each of the lines represents. So at this point, I really just need to write a function that is now going to select one of these entries in the array randomly, and then we'll output that into the text box. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'll go var select question equals function, and inside my onload, I'm going to hook up this function expression to the button. So let's just quickly do that. We see that the ID is generate, So I can go $ generate.onClick equals select question. Okay, now I almost made a mistake that we've seen in class a lot. If you go and you put the parentheses when you hook up an event handler, what that actually does is it calls the function. But we don't want to call the function right there. We want to assign the variable that represents the function. So this would be the correct way of doing that. All right, so once I get into the select question, at this point I need to pick a random entry. So the first variable I'm going to create is going to be called index. And this variable needs to be between 0 and the length of the array -1. So let's take a quick look here. I have a JavaScript random function I pulled up on the web. So basically you go math.random and that creates a random value between 0 and 1. And the 1 is exclusive, so it means it won't hit 1 exactly. It'll go up to 0.9999 repeating forever, but it will not return 1. So based off of that, we can take the number it returns and we can multiply it by an integer. And then we know that if we take the floor, okay, in other words, we basically truncate the number, we know we're getting a number between 0 and the number we multiplied by -1. So in other words, we can use the length of the array to do this. So right here is an example where it goes math.floor, math.random times 10. And the end result is you get a random integer between 0 and 9. So I can even just copy that right now. And instead of 10, we're going to use the length of the array. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say math.floor, math.random. Instead of multiplying it by 10, I'm going to say times questions.length. So that's my index. And now I get a question equals questions index. So the last thing I have to do now is find the text box, and I'm going to assign this text now to its value. So I can come in here and I can see that my text box has an ID of question. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll just grab that. So I'm going to go $question.value equals question. So let's try this out. Go ahead again, extra 7-1. Okay, so let's take a look at extra 7-1. So I'm going to go to, this might be lab, yeah, right here. Okay, so I'll download this. And let's see what we have here for extra 7-1. Okay, so this is a good one here. So this is one that displays the current time, and it also puts AM or PM, whether or not the time is to convert it from a 24-hour clock to a 12-hour clock. Okay. So I'll just extract this. Okay, get this open in brackets here, 1 second. All right. Okay, so I open it up and there's 4 functions supplied. There's a $ function. There is a display current time function. There's a pad single digit function. And there's an onload event handler. So we have some code that we can see that's already given to us. So basically 4 functions are already provided. And let's see what it's asking us to do. So in the display current time function, add code that uses the date object to determine the current hour, minute, and second. Convert these values to a 12-hour clock, determine the AM PM value, and display these in the appropriate span tags. Okay, so let's do that first, display current time, and then we can call that once, and that should give us whatever the current time is. Okay, so I'm going to create a new date. So var date equals new date. And let's just console log just to see what the hours, minutes, etc. is. So console.log date.get hours. And I'm just going to concatenate a string hours so I know what I'm looking at. So console.log date.get minutes. And console.log date.get get seconds. All right, and then on load, I'm going to call display current time. All right, let's try this out. Okay. All right, so here we go. We see 13 for hours, 49 for minutes, and 46 for seconds. So we know that we're grabbing the right data from our date object. So now really all we have to do is go in and hook these up to the span text elements in our HTML. And we can see here in our HTML, we have several spans. We have an ID for hours, minutes, seconds, and we have one for AM, PM. So let's just go through and do all of these. So I can leave those console logs there. They're not hurting anything. And now I'm going to use the $sign function. So I'm going to say $hours. And I'm going to say .node value, or sorry, .first child. Because I need to basically traverse from the span node to the text node, which is a child. .first child .node value equals date.get hours. And I'm going to do the same thing now for minutes. And the same thing for seconds. Okay, so I've done that, and let's see what we have here. There we go. So we see 13 hours, 51 minutes, 18 seconds. So the last part now we need to do, well, not the last part, but the next step is we need to convert the hours to a 12-hour clock, and we need to put AM or PM based on whether it's in the morning or afternoon. So that should be pretty easy to take care of. So I'm going to create a variable here, var morning equals false, and then I'm going to say if, actually let's also create a variable for hours. So var hours equals date dot get hours if hours is greater than 12, actually hours is greater than 11, then we want to say hours minus equals 12, I think. And we also want to say morning equals false, else, or sorry, morning equals false, else morning equals true. Okay, so now I can go to my hours, and instead of saying date.getHours, I'm just going to say hours. And I'm going to grab now the AM PM span element, and I'm going to say firstChild.nodeValue equals, okay, so I need to do an if statement now. So if morning I'm going to set this equal to AM. Else, I'm going to set it equal to PM. Okay, so let's try that out. So there we go. I've got 1:53 p.m. is my time here. So that looks good. I'll move my, sec here. So we can see there on my computer, it's 1:53. So the last thing I now need to do is call this using a timer. So I'm going to need to create an interval timer that's going to call the display current time every second. So I'm going to say let timer equal set interval, and the first parameter I pass to the set interval function is going to be the display current time function, and the other one is going to be how many milliseconds. So in this case, every second, so that's 1,000 milliseconds, and let's see what we get now. Okay, so it doesn't quite seem to be working yet. Did I not save it? There we go. Okay, there we go. So right now we can see 1:54, 58, it's counting up. Now this is getting a little bit much. I could probably go back and comment out my console logs, because right now this is just spamming my browser. So if I was gonna do some more work on this, that would be kind of distracting. Now the other thing you'll notice for the seconds right now, see how 4 and 6, those are displayed with 1 digit. And the specifications say it should be displayed with 2. So to fix that, all I need to do is use my pad single digit function. So this takes a integer, and basically if the number is less than 10, it concatenates a 0 in front of it. So I can basically go here and I can say pad single digit, date.getSeconds, and I can do the same for hours as well. Okay, and now let's see what we have. So now we can see that zeros are represented in front of each of the numbers while they're being displayed, which is the correct way to do it. Okay, so that's going to conclude this video. I'm going to post my review question generator on D2L, and I recommend you guys go and try it out. Hit a random question, open it up, see if you can do it. If you can, great. If not, go through and review the steps that you would need to do to complete that question. I think that's a good review for the upcoming exam. Also, please make sure you've completed the 5 exam review questions as well, because those will be, I think, very helpful to you. All right, have a great rest of the day, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.